Hey guys, hope y'all are having a good day. Listen, I'm working on these questions about budget and spending and deficits and all that, and I'm going to get back to you on that real soon. But in researching this, I realized there are three concepts that I want to make sure we're all on the same page on. And forgive me, you may know all this already. It's pretty basic, but I just think it's important to cover it real quick anyway. The first is something we call the tipping point, or the point of no return. Now, you remember when y'all were little and we used to go to the park, Mom would set you on the teeter-totter on one end and I would set you on the teeter-totter on another, and you'd just sit there. Nothing would happen, but pretty soon one of you would just start to go down, and then all of a sudden, it would just tip on over. Well, that was the tipping point, and we were sitting there on it, something would happen, and one of you would go, and then it would accelerate and go pretty quickly. Another way to illustrate that is with an old movie. I don't know if you saw this. It's been quite a few years ago. In fact, I think I used this illustration back when I was running for Congress. So, you know, that was obviously several years ago. But there was a movie called Thelma and Louise. Now, it wasn't all that good a movie, but the ending I thought was real interesting. I used this illustration lots of times. Thelma and Louise have been on this road trip, and they've got a string of mayhem and problems behind them. And I think, if I remember right, they're being chased by the law, and they wind up out in the desert in this convertible. The law's behind them, they're chasing them, and out in front of them is this big canyon, like the Grand Canyon or something. And so their choice is surrender and be caught, or chase off the end of the canyon. They look at each other, this little evil smile, and one of them hits the gas and the car starts roaring off toward the canyon. You can see it picking up speed, 20, 60, 80 miles an hour, and then, you know, they're off. Well, here's the thing. At some point in that rush to the edge, there was a point where they could have hit the brakes or turned the wheel or something, and they could have changed course, solved the problem, not gone over the edge. But that point was the point of no return, and once they went past it, there wasn't anything they could do. That car was going over the edge. That's the tipping point, or the point of no return. The other idea is taxes and incentives. Sometimes we call them subsidies. Now, y'all remember when you were kids and we used to eat out once in a while, we'd go to the restaurant, you always asked for a soft drink. But what did I do? I said, well, you can have a soft drink, or if you'll take water, I'll give you a quarter. Well, what did you do? You always took water because you got a quarter. So I was giving you an incentive or a subsidy to take water, and we got more of that. We got more water than we got soft drinks because you responded to the incentive. You came out ahead because you had the quarter. I came out ahead because I paid a quarter instead of $1. I probably could have gotten the same result had I used the tax approach. I could have said, sure, you can have the soft drink, but it's going to cost you a quarter, and I'll pay the rest. I would have been taxing, for you, I would have been taxing soft drinks. Probably you would have chosen the water because you wanted to avoid the tax. The difference would have been only this. We'd have still had more water, but you'd have been unhappy with me because you had to pay a tax. Now, being your dad and because I loved you, I preferred the subsidy approach, and it worked real well. Here's the thing. The government uses taxes and subsidies. They are not your dad, and they don't love you, and we're going to talk more about that later. Now, the last thing is OPM, other people's money. We react differently when we're spending our money versus other people's money. You remember back when I worked for DuPont, I used to go on a lot of business trips, and there were always other business folks there, and we'd get together in the evening to go out for dinner. Well, I learned real quick that I didn't like that. And the reason was I was a chicken and water guy, and the other folks wanted the big steaks and appetizers and martinis and all that. Well, we'd get to dinner, and there'd be 10 of us, for example, and some guys would order real big, and I'd order pretty small. And at the end of the meal, they'd say, well, let's just do the DuPont split, which meant take the total and divide by 10, and everybody pays the same. Well, that was fine because they were spending other people's money, and I was the one paying. So after 2 or 3 times, I'd always said, hey, I've made other plans. Y'all have a good evening. I'll see you later, because I didn't want to be in on that thing, because I knew they were going to run the bill up and they'd be spending my money because they didn't really care how much it cost. They weren't going to be the ones paying for it. So that's the idea of other people's money, and we're going to be talking about that too. Y'all have a good day. Remember, I love you, and call your mom.